4 Most Amazing Accidental Historical Discoveries. A dinosaur egg. A man from Buenos Aires didn't know that a priceless treasure was hiding in his farmland. While the landowner was walking in his plot, Jose spotted something unusual lying on the ground, and it looked like a dinosaur eggshell. The farmer was obviously curious, so he started digging up the relic, and what he discovered was more fascinating than a dinosaur egg. He thought that the thing was much bigger than the egg, as it was more than 3 feet long, so Jose contacted the authorities. The paleontologists then gave the explanation, and turns out it was an eggshell not of a dinosaur but of a prehistoric animal that existed during the Ice Age. Probably, the object belonged to the type of armadillo that inhabited our planet over 1,000 years ago. The discovery was termed as unique since the oval-shaped structure was perfectly preserved considering the time since the animal has been extinct. Derinkuyu Underground City. A basement renovation project led to an archaeological discovery of a lifetime, a mysterious underground city. In 1963, a native of Turkey knocked down his basement wall and found a tunnel which led to more tunnels. Apparently, the local got more home improvement than he bargained for when he discovered that these tunnels led him to a multitude of halls and chambers. After researching, the researchers concluded that the man had just accidentally discovered Derinkuyu, an ancient underground city located in Turkey. Approximately 85 meters deep city encompassed 18 stories and could house 20,000 people. Although the history does not give a clear picture of the development of the underground city, it is speculated that it was built about 2000 BC by the Hittites, the people who dominated the region at that time. Otherwise, the Phrygians must have constructed Derinkuyu around 700 BC, or else the local Christians built the city in the 1st centuries AD. The underground city of Derinkuyu was confected to protect its inhabitants from battle and religious persecutions. It was equipped with large stone doors to prevent invaders, an ingenious ventilation system, as well as a well to ensure drinking water for all citizens. It included a multitude of rooms used as kitchens, bedrooms, and warehouses for food storage. The city also ensured complete autonomy from the outside world by having a school, church, and cellar for the preparation of wine and oil. It also contained a few livestock. A woolly mammoth. James knew that his rich soil always gave good and healthy produce, but one day he found something more exciting on the ground. The field was meant to grow soybeans, however, the farmer saw something sticking out of the soil. At the first glance, the object looked like an old decayed fence post, but later it turned out to be more astonishing. James got an excavator to dig deeper and was stunned to see a well-preserved skull which belonged to a mammoth. The animal lived on the planet about 15,000 years ago, and after studying the bones of the woolly mammoth, the researchers claim that the giant was 40 years old when he passed away. Normally, when archaeologists find any animal bones, they are intact. However, they couldn't excavate the limbs of this multi-ton massive creature. Apparently, some hunters separated and took the limbs and put the mammoth's body in storage. James exercised his right to keep some bones of the animal and gave most of the mammoth remains to a local museum. The Terracotta Army of Qin Shi Huang. One of the remarkable and mysterious discoveries from the ancient world was made by mere chance. In 1974, a peasant had traveled to the mountains to dig a well, and instead of water, he found many ceramic fragments sticking out of the ground. This became one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of all time when they concluded that it was the Terracotta Army of the Qin Shi Huang dynasty. Qin Shi Huang proclaimed himself the first emperor of China in 221 BC and was obsessed with the concept of immortality. Therefore, the 13-year-old emperor began to plan his burial, and more importantly, his underground palace. A mausoleum attended by an army including over 7,000 terracotta warriors, horses, chariots and weaponry intended to protect him in the afterlife. The notable historic relic varies in height according to their roles, ranging from 175 centimeters, 5.74 feet, to about 200 centimeters, 6.6 feet, the tallest being the general's. The life-size terracotta army held more than 8,000 soldiers, 130 chariots with 520 horses, and 150 cavalry horses, the majority of which remained buried in the pits near Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum. Other terracotta non-military figures were found in other pits, including officials, acrobats, strongmen, and musicians. More than 700,000 people worked for 38 years to build Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum and his terracotta army. Ancient electric battery. In the mid-1930s, a group of people discovered something surprising and extraordinary in Baghdad. What looked like a pottery jar turned out to be the most ancient electric battery in the world. The clay jars and other similar structures have been attributed to the Parthian Empire, an ancient Asian culture that ruled most of the Middle East from 247 BC to AD 228. The 2,200-year-old clay jar is 5.5 inches high and it was made in such a way that it could generate electricity. The opening was sealed with an asphalt plug, which held in place a copper sheet, rolled into a tube. A narrow iron rod was stuck through the upper asphalt plug and hung down into the center of the copper tube, not touching any part of it. When an acidic liquid such as vinegar is poured into the jar, it permits a flow of electrons from the copper tube to the iron rod when the two metal terminals are connected, resulting in a small current between 1.5 and 2 volts. This is basically the same principle that was discovered by Galvani 2,000 years later and that Volta successfully harnessed into the first modern battery a few years later. It is assumed that the battery must have been used in the treatment of pain or electroplating gold to a silver surface.